If you were to ask younger me in the past what my favorite games were, I'd most likely say League of Legends and CSGO. But then after that, I would also write down a list of indie games for you. Back then, it was very rare for me to buy a AAA game unless a Steam sale reduced it to pocket change, or if it was by FromSoft. But other than that, I would always be cheering for the underdogs and go down the indie games route. And that still applies today. I just love seeing a story about a project put together by a group of really passionate people, or in some cases, one passionate person, and through word of mouth and clever marketing, they usually end up humiliating the billion-dollar companies. And I can safely say that that's really been happening a lot lately. We can all see it in plain sight. The Steam charts, Metacritic, Twitch, and YouTube. Indie games have been straight crushing the competition in recent times to where we see them going head to head with the big boys. From a logical standpoint, you'd think the bigger teams with the bigger budgets would be doing way better than the smaller teams with the smaller budgets. But what's crazy is that that's actually far from the truth. Despite the smaller budgets with teams that can be as little as one person, I always see these pieces of art just end up providing the same, if not more value than the behemoths of the gaming industry. And I just want to go over why I think that it's usually the case nowadays. And yeah, I know this topic has probably been beaten to death year by year, and I'm basically screaming into the big ol' echo chamber with generally the same points. But honestly, I don't do these kinds of videos very often, and really, I just want to yap about some indie games. So looking back at all the major AAA releases, I kind of noticed that they're all being built from the same generic blueprint, like a universal formula of some sort. Like first off, it's got to be open world, a very watered down version of it, but necessary. The emptier the better. Then at least a minimum of 2 safe pick genres. What will it be? Survival crafter, action RPG, battle royale, or the newest craze, extraction shooter? Why not all 4? It's like the higher ups of the company looked up most popular video game genres on Google and went, yeah, let's add all of them together. So now we have this Frankenstein's monster type of a game that's an open world shooter survival crafting collectathon with that dreaded hunger and thirst meter you have to maintain in order to keep your character alive, but can be mitigated by purchasing the premium pass that'll automatically feed my character when they get hungry while automating your farm or something that's needed for gear upgrades. It's annoying, especially when it doesn't work all that well together. It's a game that tries to do everything, but really it masters nothing. Not to mention the dozens and dozens of pop-up tutorials of systems I don't even actually care about, just plaguing my screen. It's like the game was designed to manipulate your playtime with the amount of fluff they added, all the while the main course is just a very small portion of that. When I look at the AAA industry, I like to think of this like massive commercial trawler casting a net, like this really large net, and its goal isn't to catch a specific prize fish. Oh no, its goal is to drag that net across the ocean floor and scoop up everything in sight. This net is just catching everything. Open world fishes, crafting system fishes, survival meters, battle passes, and the latest trends in gaming. But it's only until they haul that bad boy onto the deck and realize it's a freaking chaotic, bejumbled mess. Systems conflicting with each other, the experience is all just bloated fluff designed to waste people's time, and the core gameplay is just most often shallow. But we can't blame the people doing their jobs. We have to blame the director of the operation, you know, Captain Profit. His focus was just the size of the catches, not the quality. Basically, they're just trying to be every game at once, and it just didn't work out. Then, on the other end, we have a small group of friends over on the lake with their fishing rods, just having a good old time because why not? They know what bait they're using and they know what fish they're trying to get, and they'll most definitely be happy if they just get a couple snags. When you're playing an indie game, you can at least feel the confidence in what the devs are trying to make. They're also more than happy to show you everything their game has to offer on their store page, with nothing to hide before the day of the release. A shooter? Shoot away. Souls-like? Keep on dying and trying. An RTS, don't expect a competitive scene, but I hope you enjoy those skirmishes. JRPG, sit down and enjoy the story while gaining those levels. No switch up, splice genres, and unnecessary fluff is gonna interrupt the flow of your gameplay. And that's just the beautiful part. It's almost like the devs knew exactly what game they were gonna make from the start and just stuck with it. Like, imagine if Hollow Knight had a survival hunger mechanic just for the sake of having it, or if Toby Fox decided that Undertale needed more total playtime, so he copied and pasted the same boss fights scattered around the world for that extra content. No sane developer would waste their time doing that, while also knowing that it would waste your time playing that. They know how to stay in scope and focus on making a good game that was most likely inspired by their favorite games, but with a twist. Unless you're a creative prodigy, we all know that no art or artist is original. Everyone and everything had to have been inspired by something, and video games aren't an exception. Undertale, Stardew Valley, and even Balatro, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Balatro isn't an original idea, which is sad to say. However, the list goes on. But here's the thing, instead of releasing a reskinned version of their favorite game, indie developers innovate. Okay, most of the time they innovate, but even in saturated genre, they usually add that genius twist or a massive quality of life improvement that just makes the whole formula feel new again. JRPGs, for example, can have some of the most underwhelming combat if handled lazy. I mean, look at this. As a fan of this genre, I do get exhausted with the grinding aspect of this game at later stages, but it's usually the anticipation of the story that just keeps me going. Now, imagine a game where it still has the core elements of the JRPG, but handles the weakness of its combat. Well, we have some right here. If a game can somehow make you more excited to fight in a turn-based RPG, then you just created a masterpiece. This one's my favorite example. MMORPGs, probably one of my favorite, if not most favorite genres of video games. There are lots and lots of things to love about MMOs, and many people would give you different answers about what they like about these kind of games, whether it be the raids and dungeons, PvP, economy, leveling, or even just the social aspect of the game. It's a freaking good genre, but sadly, it's one of those games that do require a lot of your time and patience. Huge emphasis on time though. I do see some crazy potential, however. Each of these different aspects of those games could easily be turned into video games of their own. I constantly look for indie games that try to replicate those aspects into solo games, and maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but I've only found a handful of them. I have friends that want to play Final Fantasy XIV for the raids, but you don't have the heart to tell them about the hundreds and hundreds of hours you need to invest into the story. Well, this game with rabbit people wielding weapons is inspired by the concept of the raids, but in a form of a roguelike, no grinding needed. Want a WoW arena PvP game without investing hours leveling and gearing? Just pure key mashing and blood? Well, this game right here is exactly that, and it's free too, compared to the $15 subscription you need to give to Blizzard. Now, this is where it gets wacky. Let's say you're the percentage of players that experience the classic MMOs in their golden years, and you just want to get nostalgic, but your friends aren't interested and you're too anti-social nowadays to talk online to make any new ones. What if I told you there was a game that actually has the classic MMO experience, questing with dungeons in an open world, including the quote-unquote social aspect of hundreds of simulated players? That's right, they're not real players, they're simulated, and they're leveling alongside you. That's what this indie game made by one person is doing currently. One person. And I find it crazy how you can party with them, trade with them, and how they can whisper to you to play with them. And they'll even sometimes decline your invite and give you a reason as to why they don't want to join, or even get mad at you when you ninja loot a mob. I don't want to get into too much detail about this game because I may or may not make a separate video on it, but the fact that one person has this big of a vision just shows that there really aren't any limits to building an indie game, but the imagination of the developer. With the creative freedom and no higher ups breathing on their necks, these people aren't afraid to go all out. The story of how Expedition 33 was created is very interesting and insightful. If you think about it, there's a parallel universe out there where the devs are still working for Ubisoft, and the idea of Expedition 33 100% didn't get greenlit by the higher-ups because it wasn't their open-world team-based extraction shooter with a battle pass that needs to be completed by the end of the month. And even if they were to get the thumbs up, we still wouldn't have seen that game for another couple of years. And when it comes out, it most likely wouldn't have been the same game as the one that we have today. It'd probably be on the same level as the recent Assassin's Creed slop. The success of Clair Obscur is a perfect example of how all that talent in the gaming industry is being wasted away by the higher ups of those bigger companies. Video games are undoubtedly an art form if you think about it, and I feel like when you suppress the vision of the artist for profit and pandering, you're just gonna end up with a half-baked product that just feels and plays soulless. A good example of this is the new Skate game, and man, it sucks seeing them go down the route of live service and paywalled cosmetics. It doesn't even look like the Skate that people know and love. It just looks like a washed down, uninspired skateboarding slash parkour game. Compared to the previous titles, it looks way too clean and not in a good way. I bet at a glance someone could mistake this game for a new season of Fortnite. Like, look at this. And where's r.e.p.o, my boy, the mouth? He got replaced by a freaking robot camera that's trying so hard to be like b.m.o from Adventure Time. It really saddens me for real because the passion behind the previous games really shined, but this one in comparison kind of shows where the gaming industry is headed. But as we know, that's just the reality of the gaming industry. I could go on and on about this subject, but I just end up repeating myself in just different variations. Going back to Expedition 33, I feel like this game is the result of a small group of talented people who aren't afraid to go all out when making the game of their dreams. Sandfall really just did the exact opposite of what a AAA studio would do, and it still found big success. They made a JRPG, no microtransactions, no DRM, no EULA, no extra launchers, no ads, and just all of the above. Plain and simple, an objectively good game with that unadulterated creativity from the music, art, and storytelling down to the game design and mechanics. And it's as clear as day that the passion of each and every person who worked on this game just bleeds out in the final product. And the same thing could be said about other indie games as well. Stardew Valley, Terraria, RimWorld, Kenshi, Baldur's Gate 3. These were the games that were released years ago, and to this day, it's still being enjoyed by a large group of people. And I mean a large group. These are the types of games that you stop playing for a brief moment and you just say to yourself, wow, this was made with a lot of love. And even if it's not your cup of tea, you can at least still see the appeal and appreciate the effort put into it. Heck, I wasn't able to get into Stardew Valley after a couple of tries, but playing it, I was still able to acknowledge and appreciate how concerned r.e.p.o poured his heart, soul, and time and effort into every little detail of this game. My favorite being the music and the pixel art. The OST really makes you feel zen, and the pixel art just really complements it. The common thing you hear surrounding the topic of video games is that there's nothing to play, when in reality there's actually too much to play. I almost always get overwhelmed by the options. Plus, they're not $80, which is a huge plus. Higher prices in this field nowadays doesn't guarantee higher quality, and it's been proven countless times. Indie games have really gone a long way, with my earliest memory being Castle Crashers and Alien Hominid on the Xbox Live Arcade, and that really got me hooked as a kid. And now today we have these same kinds of games just making waves and breaking barriers in the gaming industry. Like just recently, Stardew Valley became the highest rated game on Steam, stealing that 14-year-old record, 14 years, by Portal 2. From pleasing a specific group of people while also being fearless innovators, indie games are without a doubt proof that gaming isn't dying, but the giants of the industry are. They provide us with memorable experiences, with new worlds and unique perspectives in gaming. And if you ever feel like there isn't anything to play, you just haven't explored far enough.